Okay, so for body portrait 3, your body small scale, I always like to share with my students the movie Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And I realize that I'm getting older and you guys are kind of getting younger. So a lot of my students have never seen this movie. It's probably really horrible now looking back at it because it's from the 80s. But it's where this dad, who's a scientist, shrinks his kids and they become super teeny tiny. And like here they are floating in a bowl of Cheerios. Okay, they get lost in the backyard. This is them like underneath a blade of grass. So, Honey, I Shrunk the Kid, or this is them with an ant. You know, they're tinier than an ant. So I like to show this as an example because for your body's small scale, it should be something that's like a little bit funny. It doesn't have to be realistic. Okay. So think about yourself somewhere small where you normally wouldn't be that small. So you're going to have to Google a place to put yourself for your body small scale. An example of that would be Alex here leaning up against the Starbucks cup. Obviously, Alex is bigger than a Starbucks cup, but he put himself small scale. It still looks realistic. Notice the coloring that Alex has going on. He applied a filter and he's got a great shadow here and on the cup to make him look like he's actually leaning on that Starbucks cup. Okay, so we need to come up with an image where you're going to put yourself somewhere small. So maybe I want to be on a soda can, let's say. Remember, when you're searching your images, you want to make sure you go to Tools, Size, and Large. Even though we're searching large images, it still doesn't guarantee that these images are going to be large. So you still need to make sure when you paste them into Photoshop that they're going to be a decent size. Okay, so I'm going to go through, try to find something that's going to work for my image. I'm kind of picky with what I choose. Oh, I like that one, but there's a watermark and it's going to take me too long to get rid of that watermark. So I'm actually not going to pick that. It's too time consuming. If we had several weeks to work on one project, maybe. I'll just take this one here. So I'm going to, whoops, web page blocked. Oh, that's too bad. So I'm going to copy this image. This image is more horizontal than it is vertical. So my width is going to have to be 11 inches and my height is going to have to be that 8.5. So in Photoshop, when I create a new document, I'm going to have to make sure that my width is 11 inches and my height is 8.5. And I'm going to title this Body Portrait 3. 300 for your resolution. This is really important. I've been noticing that students have been forgetting to check their resolution, and some people have been doing 72. And that's why a lot of your pictures look pixelated and kind of crappy because you're not using your 300 resolution. So make sure you double check that. And then I'm going to go to edit and paste and Control T, which is short for transform. And I'm going to make this image fit my piece of paper. Now, I have two decisions to make. I can make it this size, and notice that I have white on the top and the bottom. I can do that if I want. If I want this to fill my entire page, I'm going to have to crop it. So I'm going to have to make this bigger and decide where I want this to go. Okay, so maybe I want it right here in the center. I can hit enter to keep that. Once I hit enter, those pixels should go away. If after you hit enter, this picture looks not very good, I would definitely hit delete and Google a different picture to use, making sure that I'm choosing large for my images. Now I need to put my body into here. So I'm going to go to File and Open. And I'm going to locate the common folder. So I'm going to hit that up arrow next to my folders here. Common folders, PWHS, because we're at the high school. FireHorizon, computer graphics. And you guys are in the 2020 fall. I'm going to use an old student picture, so I'm going to go to the old student work, something from last year. If you don't have this view, a lot of your views look like the list. You can click up in the top right-hand corner and you can change your view to large icons so that you can see yourself a little bit better. And I think I'm going to choose somebody that is sitting maybe, so they can sit on this can of Coca-Cola. Here we go. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my quick selection tool. And I'm going to draw over my person. You guys should be getting pretty good at this. I know it gets a little bit annoying, but honestly, the more you do this, the better you get. Some of this background did get selected, so I'm going to hold Alt, which turns my quick selection tool into the subtraction sign. So I'm actually subtracting, and then I'm going to zoom in so that I can make sure that this selection is nice and clean. And I'm holding down on the space bar so that I can zip around this image. I'm going to add in these shoelaces. And I got a little bit of the floor, so I'm holding Alt and I'm subtracting the floor. Alt gives you your negative sign. The quick selection tool automatically is a plus unless you are holding Alt. Then it subtracts. Got some crazy shoelaces here, so it's going to take me just a little bit to clean up these areas, but that's okay. I can do it. That looks pretty good. I'm going to subtract this little part by her knee. Okay, that looks pretty darn good. Then I'm going to use my move tool, and I'm going to, my move tool now changes to a little scissors, and I can snip myself out of this background, making sure that I have everything selected. And then I'm going to drag and drop into my can of Coca-Cola. Now, before I make myself smaller, I'm going to use a soft eraser. So right now, I'm going to bump my hardness up a little bit, maybe to like 46-ish%. And I'm going to, whoops, I'm using my brush tool and not my eraser. That's why. 42%, 45 for the size. And I'm just going to go around and kind of clean up any of the ghosting that occurred. Hair is usually an area that needs to be cleaned up. Shoes. Those two areas are like the big ones that you're going to notice. And I'm going to go to my move tool, move myself around here, go back to my eraser. You can change the size of your eraser. If this is too big, you can make it smaller up in the options panel. The eraser is very similar to a brush tool. Oh yeah, that shoe area needs to be cleaned up for sure. So be patient with this. This is, oh, why do I keep using my paintbrush instead of my eraser? This is a crucial step to make yourself look realistic. So don't skimp on this process because it's going to be a dead giveaway that you have photoshopped yourself. And erase a little bit in here. All right, that looks pretty darn good. I'm going to double click my hand tool to bring this into view. And then I just need to make myself a little bit smaller because I'm pretty big here. So Control T, make myself the size that I want to be. Now it's your body's small scale. So I'm already small, but I can figure out, you know, how big I want to be in the space. Do I want to be like really tiny? Or do I want to be, you know, maybe like the size of a fingernail? You get to decide. If I want to like tilt myself a little bit, I can rotate. This is just by holding the corner anchor. Like if you just scroll up a bit and it gives you that rounded arrow, and then that's how you can rotate. Remember, you can also flip yourself. So if I don't want to be looking to the left and I want to be looking to the right, first I have to hit enter to keep that transformation. I can go to edit, transform, and I can flip horizontally, and I'm now looking the opposite direction. So I'm going to control Z that because I actually prefer looking to the left in this situation. But you can change that. Okay, so maybe I want to act like I'm, sitting on this edge here. And then I do need to apply a little bit of a shadow, because if you notice underneath the fingers, there is a shadow. It's coming a little bit to the left. So I'm going to have to apply a shadow a little bit to the left of my figure here. So I'm going to use the burn tool by clicking on my layer 1, which is my environment. And if you haven't used your burn tool yet, it's the one that looks like this lollipop. If you right click on it, the burn tool is there. In your options panel, you have the options of working with the shadows, the midtones, or the highlights of your image. And then this is the exposure. So how dark or how light that shadow is. So right now my exposure is 36, and I'm gonna work with the midtones to start. And I'm gonna up my brush size. I'm gonna make this a pretty big brush. So mine is 401, and it defaults your hardness to 0. So I'm just gonna click behind my body here in my layer 1, my background, and notice how it is darkening underneath the body. That is the goal. And I'm just kind of swiping lightly so that it starts darkening. My goal is to match the shadows that are happening underneath the fingers. Okay, so it's pretty dark, but it's not black. It's like a dark gray. So I'm just kind of clicking underneath to get a little bit of that shading that would occur. Okay, that looks pretty good. If I want to work with my highlights, so the light areas, if I want to make those darker, I can switch it to highlights. If I want to work with my shadows, this particular scene doesn't have a lot of shadows right here. So for me, it doesn't make sense. Okay, so right now I could save this, and this looks pretty good. One thing I want to show you guys is the lighting. So there's a pretty strong highlight on the can, and there's a highlight here. And it's reflecting off of this shiny can. So in my layer 2, my body right here, I'm going to go to image, adjustments, and I'm going to go to my exposure. So I can lighten myself. That's a little bit too light, right? Or you can darken yourself. You can make yourself a silhouette if you really wanted to. But I'm going to kind of play with my exposure to try to make it look like it belongs in this scene. You can also play with the offset and the gamma correction, and it changes the coloring of you in that scene. So if anybody's having problems with the color of yourself in a scene, if you go to image and adjustments, brightness, contrast, levels, curves, exposure, vibrance, hue, saturation, color balance, like these top 7 items are going to help you out immensely to make you look like you blend in. I get a lot of students that like their picture maybe has like a reddish undertone. Mine doesn't, but I'm just going to go to hue, saturation, and show you. So I can go to the opposite color of red, which would be like a green, and I can make myself have more of like a reddish tone if I wanted to. And you can do that with any color in the rainbow. Like if your scene is more blue, or if your scene is more like yellowy green. That's image adjustments, hue, saturation. So I'm going to hit cancel because it doesn't really make sense for my particular image to play with the coloring. So for me, this looks fairly realistic for my body's small scale. It's kind of funny. It's comical. I'm sitting on this can of Coke and I'm super teeny tiny. When you save, just another reminder, file and save as. If you haven't named your file already, this one's Body Portrait 3. I'm saving it as a Photoshop file because I opened my body in the common folder, it's going to try to make me save. This is the common folder here. Do not let it save there because you're not going to be able to open it. Students aren't allowed to save in the common folder. So you're going to have to hit that up arrow next to what file you're in, and you're going to have to hit that until it turns gray, like 4 or 5 clicks. Keep clicking it, and then you're going to scroll down to my folder, and that's where you're going to save. So I've been saving in my computer graphics, my folder, and body portrait 3. All right, your body small scale. I'll be coming around to see if you guys need any help in about 35 minutes. I am going to go over body portrait number 4 with you guys. So we're going to do 2 of them in one class period today.